The September refines are here, and you know what that means. We're getting the Choose Your Legend 7's refines. That's right, after only 2 years, we're getting the refines already. Not only that, we're also getting 2 remixes, one for Askr and Veronica, and we're even throwing in a Bertram refine as well. Let's jump in and start off with Askr. Let's start off with Askr's refine. What this essentially does from his base weapon, you get the improvement of range, going from within 2 spaces to 3 spaces for the condition of having an ally, which is pretty nice. Other than that, you still have the basic things you already had. Plus $5 stats, 20% true damage, guaranteed follow-up attack, 20% flat DR, and then the infantry transformation effect, which is like tempo and a bit of additional true damage when the special triggers. Now let's talk about the actual refine. So what this starts off with is it does have some support in it, which is good because Askr is mostly a support mythic, right? That's what you're really using him for. So for allies within 3 rows with 3 columns centered on Askr, you're going to get attack, defense, and res plus 5. You're going to neutralize penalties, and you're also going to get guard. And then also for himself, if the foe initiates combat or the HP condition is 25%, you'll get up to a max of 11 to all stats. You'll neutralize your own penalties, you'll get guard yourself, and then you also get DR Shred. Now, before we talk about the total refine, let's talk about the remix as well with Open Domain Plus. What this is going to do is give an easier transformation condition, which is nice. So if you have a unit within 2 spaces of an ally from a different title than Heroes, you'll get to transform. Very cool little effect there, tie back into being Askr, right? And then if you're defending an Ether Raids, you can transform on turn 1 as well, which is a bit weird because he is an offense mythic. I guess it's for Chaos Season? I don't know. And then if you're within 3 spaces of an ally, you're going to give attack and defense plus 6 as a visible bonus. You're going to give Resonance Blades, Resonance Shields to yourself and allies within 3 spaces. And then if you're within 3 spaces of an ally, you'll get that special cooldown cap -1, so that's still Times Pulse-esque effect, right? And then you yourself, when you're within 3 spaces, Askr will get attack, defense, and res plus 5. You'll get 7 flat DR, and then also you'll get a hardy bearing based off a defense check if you win a defense check of plus 5. And then lastly, you get the other part of Times Pulse, where if it's at max special cooldown after combat, you get -1. So it's like a Times Pulse 4 effect, essentially. So overall, how did Askr do on his refine, in my opinion? Not that great. This is kind of like mid. It's just not doing enough. I was really hoping that Askr would become the king of special cooldown again. When he came out, he was like one of the first cooldown supports we had that was really consistent and powerful. So I was really hoping he would get like maybe special jump effects or like a really big special pulse effect, like a 2 or 3. That didn't really happen. We got upgrade to Times Pulse 4, which is nice, not bad. But they mostly gave him like effects that make him a little bit better at frontlining, and then also offer some support, but really not like the ultra valuable support, right? Some stats is good, penalty neutralization is nice, but we also do have Peony who does that as well in light season, so not the biggest deal. And then guard. Now guard is getting better as we go on. They're printing less units with anti-guard as nukes, most notably like Legendary Black Knight and Young Camilla. So that isn't bad support, but it's not like crazy game-changing support, right? It's not the kind of support you really want to see for a remix, especially on a light mythic as prevalent and powerful as Askr. So overall, I think that his refine is definitely an upgrade, but nothing like crazy, and it's not really going to make Askr meta again. It'll just make him a decent option as a light mythic. Okay, let's talk about Bertram next, our GHB refine. So we have Cancer remaining +1, minimum of 2. You're going to get adaptive damage, and then if you initiate combat or the number of allies adjacent to unit is less than or equal to 1, you get +5 to all stats, so pretty average stats there. You're going to get some flat DR, and then you'll get additional flat DR when the special procs on the foe, and it's going to be based off the number of spaces from start position to end position, so like a clash effect, right? Max of 3, so you can get 12 normal flat DR, and then another additional 12 flat DR if the special procs, and then you'll also heal 7 HP whenever you deal damage. So not the most impressive PRF weapon, but not horrible. We then have the actual refine itself. And what this is going to do is going to offer some support. So any foes within 3 rows or 3 columns, so you're getting like a rain effect. You're going to get attack speed, defense -5 on the foe. You're going to get guard. And then also guaranteed follow-up attacks, like a crux effect, right? And then lastly, you'll get 20% true damage based off your defense. So overall, this is not the most impressive refine or PRF weapon at all. It essentially gives like the basic effects you need, right? Like you have true damage, you have flat DR, you get some special DR, it's nice, and you offer some like okay support. Once again, not the craziest support, very similar to Askr actually with the guard and the stats, but instead you're giving like a guaranteed follow-up attack, which is like decent nowadays because NFU isn't like literally everywhere, but it's still somewhat prevalent, right? So overall, I do think this makes Bertram usable. Like if you're a big Bertram fan like I am, you can build him up and make him work. But honestly, his weapon like isn't that much better than an arcane weapon, and you can even argue it's not better than an arcane weapon depending on what kind of build you're going for. So overall, not too impressed with Bertram. Unfortunately, was really hoping for something crazy to like go alongside his amazing art, but it just didn't happen. Okay, next up, let's talk about Brave Corrin. So we still have like the same base effects there. We still have slaying, we still have the dragon adaptive damage. We still have stones, but it's still after unit Axe, so you're not getting any kind of upgrade to her stone effect. This is really bad. We'll dive into this a little bit more in a second, but like, whew. You're going to still get the minus $5 stats on the foe. You're going to get your NFU. You still have 30% pierceable damage reduction. That did not get an upgrade. But you do get 20% flat DR, which is big. She needed this like massively. If she didn't have this, she was just dead. And it does include AoEs, which is also nice. When we come to the Astral Refine itself, she's going to have some support. She's going to give out Draconic Hex to herself and allies within 2 spaces, and also neutralizes penalties again. So we're seeing kind of a repetitive support effects in these refines, but either way, it's still pretty good. And then if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, she'll get up to 11 to all stats. If she triggers Savior, it's automatically 11. She'll get 7 true damage during combat. And then also, if she wins a res check, she'll get a Scowl effect. So overall, how did Brave Corrin come out? I'm going to be honest, this is extremely underwhelming and pretty weak. I know a lot of people know I don't like Fates, so they probably think I'm being kind of cruel, but the truth is this is just not enough. As a speedy save, you already are kind of struggle in the meta right now. Like your speed has to be really, really high. To be fair, she did get a nice boost to speed. Effectively, she has like 16 speed in her weapon, and then when you cast a Draconic Hex, it's like 21, which is above average. That is nice. But it doesn't fix all of her problems, right? 20% flat DR, great. But the big conditions that she really needed was, one, the stones needed to be changed. The stones need to act like Hector's stones, where they're at start of turn. That's such a big deal. Like, it needed to be at start of turn, just like for Aetheryte's defense, for her to have any viability there. And then for some hurdles, it would have helped a ton too, right? Just making her a lot more bulky. Now she has to act to do it, not the greatest. When it comes to her support, once again, not the most influential. Draconic Hex is like okay to get some extra stats, but it doesn't stack like, let's say, Anathema does, right? That would have been way better if she got something like that. And then she didn't even get good true damage. Like, her true damage isn't even 20% based off of speed or something like that. It's 7. That's horrible true damage nowadays, right? You need high true damage to kill things, or you need like Reflect or something like that, right? And she doesn't have either. That's really bad. And then lastly, her last key effect is Scowl. And Scowl isn't like the worst effect in the game, but it's not really super relevant right now. And the reason why is we just have so many ways to get like special jump or preempt pulse or whatever you want to call it, right? And it just doesn't help all that much. Also, her Scowl is tied to the foe having an offensive special, which means you can't even use it to turn off like defensive specials or anything like that. It's very, very limited. And so overall, like, Corrin just didn't get anything she really needed except for flat DR, right? She got the 20% flat DR, and that's pretty much it. Everything else on her is like a mediocre effect at best, and they didn't fix her core problems, right? I think they could have given her like maybe a Unity effect or something like that to give her like a big speed boost. They could have given her special flat DR, like something like that, right? Like something to give her that big like boost she really needed to make it so that she was a lot stronger, and they just did not do it. And so I think Corrin is like just extremely underwhelming. I mean, she'll be better than she was before Refine, but not by much. Like, this is definitely not going to make Corrin even like near our current saves, right? Like, she's not even like 5th or 6th best save now, right? Like, she's still below the Allirs and like the Dew and like probably even the Snakes. So just unfortunately not a great Refine for Corrin. Next up, we're going to have Gullveig. So we have Slaying, we have the Cancer remaining +1 still. We still have the +5 to all stats, and she still has the scaling stats based off turn. Not the biggest fan of this. I wish they would have changed the condition, because you have to wait till turn 5 to get the max stats. Now, at turn 5, she's going to have a ton of stats. It's going to be great, but until then, it's not that fantastic, right? You're getting like +2 on turn 1. Most of the time, you're going to be doing things on turn 1 through 3, so you still have the 20% true damage, which is good. You have full NFU, so nothing too big of a difference there. When it comes to the Astral Refine now, this is where things get a little bit more interesting. So we have a nice range support effect here, where 3 rows and 3 columns centered on her. She's going to inflict -$5 stats on the foe. So you're going to get neutralizes foes bonuses, so like a full doe all effect, which is really nice. But most importantly, she's going to get that +10 true damage support. This is big. So this is kind of like an exposure effect, but unlike exposure where it can be cleansed because it's a penalty, this is just a rain effect. So as long as Gullveig's in that range, you're going to get that +10 true damage, and that is big. We've seen this with like Plumeria, right, earlier in the spring, and it makes for like a really powerful support effect. Also, she's actually going to get extra action in her combat as well. So she'll get that extra action after Kanto, and it will re-enable Kanto as well, which is fantastic. It's very good to see this here because honestly, her Preference B skill is extremely weak now. So having to rely on her Preference B skill for an extra action is just not great. In all honesty, you probably want to get rid of that Preference B skill so you can get more damage on her. But it is an option if you just want to have a ton of actions. And lastly, she'll get more stats, a max of 6. She'll get 7 flat DR. So overall, how did Gullveig do? I think Gullveig did decent. Now, I will say, like, it doesn't fix her core problems, but it did help her out and give her some more power, right? One of the big things is that she just needed more damage. And so not only did she get more damage with the extra 10 true damage, but she did get, like, support, right? It's support she can give out. Now, the problem is that extra 10 true damage doesn't work with AoEs. If this would have worked with AoEs, it would have been way better because her like optimal playstyle has been with AoEs, right? So that kind of sucks. The extra action is nice and definitely helps her out. When it comes to stats, she has like average stats until turn like 4 or 5, where she's above average stats, right? So not the best there. But overall, the biggest problem with Gullveig has to be her durability. She only gets 7 flat DR, and in today's meta, that is just nowhere near enough to survive things. Like, you need massive flat DR as a range unit to actually survive anything. What you can essentially do is have her like as a cleanup Gale Force unit, and she can help you out there. She kind of gives some more firepower to your team, and then has the extra actions to kind of swoop in and help you kill things. So that is the role she can still play. I don't think she's gonna be strong enough to be like an initiator to like actually kill saves, because like she's still relying on AoEs essentially, which aren't in the best place currently. When it comes to her support in other game modes, like let's say Summoners or stuff, I think she just doesn't offer quite enough. Like the 10 true damage support is absolutely fantastic, but if you have a unit who can't really kill things and can't really carry her own weight outside that 10 true damage, it's just not enough typically. You're going to want to have Plumeria. Plumeria just offers more. She still offers that 10 true damage, but she's also a dancer giving you action economy, and she even offers like frozen support and stuff like that, right? So I do think this is overall a solid refine, and if you want to use Brave Gullveig, you definitely can. She'll still perform well in Aether Raid's offense, but she's just not going to be like the premier sweeper that she was when she came out, and I don't think she's quite good enough for other game modes. Okay, let's move on to Brave Robin. So we have Brave Robin. He still has the same conditions he pretty much had before. The speed +3, plus $5 stats. He still has the 40% pierceable damage reduction, but now it works against Brave, which is nice. He also got 20% flat DR based off speed, which is big. That's massive. So glad to see that put into his weapon. And then he still has tempo as well. Now, this is where things aren't the best in my opinion. So he still has the special cooldown piercing if you have a high special cooldown, right? So he can get through damage reduction, which is good. But his adaptive damage effect is still tied to Glowing Ember, Bonfire, or Ignis. And in my opinion, this is just ridiculously bad. I don't know why they would do this. They really should change this out, because realistically nowadays you will never use those specials. Those specials are just way too weak to be using nowadays. And so even getting adaptive damage is not a big enough effect to make you want to use those specials. You really want to be using things like, let's say, Boulder or Arch Rival, or like anything high cool special cooldown, right? Essentially like that. And those are just not it. So that really sucks they did not change that. But then we get to the actual refine, and we have some good stuff here. So first of all, he gets pass. That's right, he could just pass, warp through things. This is great. This is like one of the key effects he needed, right? This lets him work with his Preference C to allow him to warp to units with Rally Spectrum, which is great, right? Being able to do that is awesome. He can also use the Emblem Selkering and warp kind of freely, which is nice as well. And then also he gets some nice support. So he does inflict a visible speed and resistance -7, sabotage, and frozen on the closest foe, and then foes within 2 spaces. And then also he's going to get more stats, max of 11 there, so pretty average stats overall. And then 20% true damage based off speed, which is the average true damage you'll see as well. So overall, how well did Robin do on his refine? I do think this is a solid refine. It definitely, gives him more firepower. It definitely makes him a little bit have higher survivability. And he does get some nice support. Sabotage and Frozen are 2 very good effects. In particular, Frozen is really nice right now for something like Legendary Diamant. The problem I will say is 2 things. First of all, the speed and res -7 visible debuff kinda sucks. And the reason why is they're kind of like hoping you use adaptive damage, but once again, you're not going to get adaptive damage because Bonfire and Ignis just suck, and you'll never use those. So the res -7 doesn't really do much for Robin himself. It can help out his team members if you have units who target res, but not the best. Second thing is that all these debuffs are only at start of turn, which means that currently our meta is very much warping around being able to cleanse things. This is largely due to Micaiah Emblem Ring and Emblem Micaiah herself. We have things like Ymir as well too, right? And we even have, at start of turn cleansing like Attuned Micaiah and like Hother. So this isn't the best. I really wish it was at start of turn and after unit acts. I think if it was that would be crazy good, and I think Robin would be immediately better. But with this, it's solid, but not amazing. The other thing that really holds back Robin, in my opinion, is that this doesn't really fix Robin's like main problems, right? One of the big things is like being able to warp with Rally Spectrum is cool. So the problem is like Robin can warp within 5 spaces to an ally, but it's only adjacent, and that's the biggest problem. Adjacent just isn't good enough typically. You need to be able to like do within 2 spaces, and the problem is that's tied to his preferred C skill, so it was never going to get like a refine right. It would need a remix, which they don't do currently, and so that's a bit rough. Like he has the pass effect, which would make it so good, but like the range itself isn't fantastic in my opinion. And so what you're kind of rely on then is like the Emblem Selka ring, which is a good option, honestly. It's not bad. The other problem with Robin though is that he is a melee infantry nuke. Keyword there being infantry. Right now, infantry are just struggling to be in the meta, which is kind of crazy to say because typically infantry were the most prominent unit type in the meta, but they're not now. And melee infantry in particular really struggle because they don't have access to the best skills. Like you do have like potent finish, which is really nice, but they don't have a good C skill and they don't have a good A skill really. The C skill will probably just end up being his, preference because that's kind of the unique thing about him. When it comes to his A skill, you're kind of like relying on Excel, which isn't best. Like you really want like a blue skies for infantry, and we don't have that currently. I think if we do get that, that will help him out a bit. But without that, I think that like Robin's nuking capabilities aren't going to be fantastic, and that's kind of problematic, right? You really want to be able to have Robin not only offer support, but be able to warp in and kill things as well. And I don't think he does that currently. So I think he will be overall usable for sure, especially on teams that want frozen support. But I don't think he's going to be like this fantastic broken unit now. I think he'll just be good. Like he just got an overall solid upgrade and he's definitely usable, but not meta warping or meta defining by any means. Okay, let's move on to Brave Soren. So we still have Slaying and we still have the Assigned Decoy effect. This is still going to give the visible +6 to all stats to his support partner and turning them into a save. And then he'll still get like stats based off of visible bonuses. So typically he'll have 11, but with like something like Eignathyr or like another unit like Duo Marth, it could be even higher. He's gonna get 20% flat damage reduction based off his resistance, which is really nice. And it does include AoEs, which is amazing. And then he'll still have his 40% pierceable damage reduction based off resistance, like a Dragon Wall effect essentially. So a little upgrade there in his base weapon, which is pretty nice. But then we get to the actual refine itself, and what this is going to do, it's going to give you attack and res -7 as a visible debuff, exposure, and discord. And it is global. It's going to hit the closest foe and the foes within 2 spaces. Then he'll get an additional up to 11 to all stats. He'll get to neutralize his own penalties to attack and res, and he gets 20% true damage based off his resistance, no AoEs. Okay, so overall, how well did Soren do? I'm going to be honest, this is pretty typical of what we expected of Soren's refine. We were really hoping for it to address some of his major weaknesses, such as like, undefended or like the tree man putting his own assigned decoys or something like that, right? They didn't do that, unfortunately. So it definitely doesn't fix Soren's core weaknesses, but they did offer some nice support in there, right? Exposure is very good, and so can Discord be. That's pretty decent there as well. Once again, just like Brave Robin though, it's only at start of turn, so it can be cleansed, which is a bit rough. Now, when it comes to Soren himself, they did give him a bit of a combat refine, right? He's more bulky with a 20% flat DR, and he gets actual true damage, which is nice because he does have a Brave effect in his PRFA slot. So getting that true damage is very critical for his ability to nuke overall, right? Now, when it comes to the other thing is that his stats are kind of high, right? His base weapon itself will on average give +11, and then he can get another 11 from his actual refine, which is like about 22 resistance, which is what really matters because his effects are all based off resistance checks. And so having high stats in your refine is really good for him. It will help him a little bit. Will he be able to like really nuke things? Probably not, but he could be like a secondary nuke, which is okay. The big thing with Soren is like he was already in a pretty strong place. He was easily the best Brave unit of CYL7 before the refines, and I still think overall he's probably still going to be just because he has that unique niche of turning things into assigned decoy. Now, obviously, the thing right now is that we do have Eignathyr who's taking up that role, and I will say that overall, I do think Eignathyr does a better job at it currently. He just gives better support, and he acts as a save, which means you get to have one less unit on your team, which opens up a team slot, right? Which is great. Now, long term, I do think Soren does have some advantages which will make him useful. First of all, the assigned decoy allows him to have a far save and a near save instead of a magic save and a physical save, which is good. And then he does offer support, right? You have exposure, you have discord, and you're going to be able to be an infantry unit, and they do have access to some key skills still, right? Like Havoc, right? Havoc is extremely good on Soren, and then even cancel control as well, which is really nice too. Especially if we ever get a counter to Sakura eventually, right? So overall, I do think this is a solid refine. I kind of think of Soren the same as Brave Crom, where he was already in a pretty decent position, so he didn't really need all that much to actually perform well. Overall, just improves on what he was already doing, which was pretty good. Okay, last but certainly not least, we have Veronica. So this still has Slang, and then if you initiate combat or number of allies is less than or equal to 1, you get attack speed plus 6. You get full no follow-up now, so that's 2 upgrades already. And then also you'll get the conditions based off the number of foes within 2 spaces of your target. So you get the speed and res -4 or the speed res -8 on the foe, and then you'll also get like a flash effect, right? Like a sweep effect. So this is already nice, right? You get full no follow-up instead of just offensive no follow-up, and you get your condition being a little bit easier, which is also really good. Now, when we get to the actual refine, you're going to get some decent support. You're going to get a visible attack and speed plus 6. You're going to get preempt pulse, so that's a special jump of 1 before your attack. And then also resonance blades, which is effectively attack and speed plus 4 as well. So just a little bit more stats there. Then you'll also get a bonus to your stat, attack and speed equal 10% of your speed. At start of combat plus 6, so that's going to be on average like plus 11, which is pretty solid as well. And then effectively, you're going to get about 25 true damage based off of your bonuses and the penalty effects active on the foe. So pretty average true damage there, but overall pretty solid. But then we move on to the remix of Enclosure. So we have Enclosure 2. This is going to boost your damage by 30% of your attack, so a 5% boost there. You're still going to get anti-guard, but at start of turn, you're going to need some nice debuff support. So you're going to get speed and res -7, you're going to get feud, that's right, feud, and sabotage on the closest foe within 2 spaces of those foes, so a nice little global effect there. You're also going to get full damage reduction piercing when your special procs, but most importantly, you're going to get a potent attack. That's right, you're going to get a potent attack, which is kind of crazy. And the potent effect will be either 100% if the foe has feud on them, or 40% otherwise. So overall, how did Veronica do? I think Veronica did exceptionally well. Now, I don't think this unit is going to be like a med-defining unit by any means. And I don't think she's going to be like the biggest unit outside of Arena. I think she could be possible to use in Summer Duels, but honestly, her T version is probably going to be better. And the reason for that is the same we've been talking about through this entire Refine batch. All the debuff supports are at start of turn. And we're in a meta where there's always cleansers on the enemy team, which means that you really need to be able to reapply them mid-turn, which she cannot do like her T self. Either way, overall, I do think this is a pretty solid refine. She got most of the things that she needed, like she got a lot of more stats. She got preempt plus, which means it's easier for her to actually pop her Enclosure twice with that potent attack. Potent is really strong, so being able to have that on a mage nuke is really nice. Her support is very good when it's actually infect, feud, and sabotage are not to be underrated for sure. And she got the true damage she really needs, so she can actually nuke things. Now, of course, I do think that this unit is completely tied to Arena, and the reason why is because, like I said, we do have cleansers in the meta, but also we have a lot of units with Hardy Bearing. We have Black Knight and Eignithir. There's a few others as well that have some kind of Hardy Bearing built into their kit. And for Veronica, she has like no defensive bulk whatsoever. She's completely relying on that desperation effect to actually nuke things, right? She's trying to hit 3 times in a row and just nuke them out of the sky. And you can't really do that if they have Hardy Bearing. So I will say when it comes to SD, I just don't think she's quite viable, but I do think she's going to be really great in Arena, which is good for me because that's where I use her. So overall, I think Veronica got a great refine. It's going to make her very usable in Arena. Feud support is so nice in Arena, just being able to turn off people's drives. Just like getting rid of so many annoying effects is fantastic. I love that. So I just think that this is a great refine overall. It definitely gives Veronica a nice power boost, makes her a better nuke while offering some support, which is exactly what we wanted. Okay, let's move on to the final part of the video. Who won the refine war for September? In S tier, I'm going to have Veronica. I think Veronica by far got the best refine. She essentially got all the things she wanted, right? She got a boost to all of her damaging, and she got nice, powerful, unique support with feud and sabotage. So just fantastic refine overall. Once again, not meta defining or warping, but very, very good. In A tier, we're going to have Soren, Robin, and Gullveig. All these units got something to improve their playstyle, but at the same time, none of them got effects that fix their major weaknesses, right? Like I said with Soren, we really needed a way to get rid of Assigned Decoy from Tree Man, or to like get rid of Undefended, or something like that to make him really capitalize that, or like just some kind of insane support effect, which we didn't get. We got very solid support effects, and so overall I do think he does deserve A tier. Same with Robin, we did get some like nice upgrades to make him more durable, give him some more damage, and to even allow for him to actually be able to warp, which is great, but once again, doesn't address his key weaknesses. And same with Gullveig, we just have a lot more firepower to be honest, but just not the survivability that we need. And so once again, solid upgrades, so she's gonna be an A tier. In B tier, we have Askr, which is just like, he got a little bit of what he needs, but he didn't get anything that really fixes any problems or makes him significantly better. I think it's just a minor upgrade overall, and not enough for me to be really excited about. And then down in C tier, we have Corrin and Bertram. Corrin's refine is just so underwhelming and disappointing. I can't believe that they gave her like essentially one effect she needed, and that was it. All the other effects are like okay, but not great. They didn't fix her key problem with stones. Like the stones needed to get fixed. The condition needed to be better, and they just did not give that to her, which is just soul crushing. It's so bad. We also didn't get like any type of like, you know, defensive special jump like a Lugu's friend, or like legendary Corrin's PRF special. Nothing like that. We got Scowl, and it's super underwhelming. Corrin's just got by far the loser of the CYL Refine batch. But in last place, we'll have Bertram. Honestly, Bertram's refined thing is just, it's a pretty standard GHB upgrade. It's like better, slightly better than an arcane weapon, but not by much. And arguably, you can even use the arcane weapon, so nothing really to write home about. But at the same time, he didn't even have a PR weapon before, so like, it's something at least, right? But yeah, overall, I think that Bertram and Corrin definitely fell like the farthest and just really did not get a lot of love at all, unfortunately. With that said, I'd love to hear from you now. Who do you think got the best refined? Who do you think I'm underrating? Who do you think I'm overrating? I'd love to hear about, so make sure to drop a comment down below. As always, I'd like to thank all my members for their constant support, and if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. This has been Oblivion. I'll catch you all later with more Fire Emblem Heroes.